Good to see you, Emmanuel. How's it going?
Nice to see you guys.
To
We're
see
excited
you.
you can jump on here. Everybody in the comments was excited already. So, yeah, welcome in.
Thank you. Honor to be here.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Thanks for doing this.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just
anything.
texting you like that. That I have had people actually text me like really excited to hear your story and to hear from you actually. So yeah, this is awesome. It's finally happening.
I know. I'm always shocked that people know each other's stories too.
Yeah. You know what's so
Right.
funny? I had or it was Rod yesterday asked me. He goes, "Where's the video of Emmanuel on the live?" I'm like, "I don't think we've done it yet." And then we looked around and it was yesterday. We were talking about this, and we're like, "Oh, it's tomorrow." So anyway, well, if you don't mind, I guess just tell us a little bit about your story, and we'll kind of ask some questions. Like, what got you started in real estate media?
Well, we had just moved to Texas from Oregon and just wanted a change in scenery, just had a baby. And so I wanted to get into something that I wouldn't have to be working a full time job and that I can be with the baby most of the time. And so I was looking into either getting my real estate license or diving deeper into the photography world because I already had a camera. And so that's when I came across your famous Instagram page. And so I'm like, wow, this all makes sense. Have I have a camera, and I just love working with people, and I don't think it would be hard to get started with this kind of thing. And like again, learning about the REPP program, then I'm like, who knows if this is a scam or not? But one way to find out, and
A risky way to find out, but
I know. I'm like, whoever this Eli guy is, here's my information.
what? So you said you had a camera. Was it like you just shot photos for fun, or you did other types of photography? Like, what was the extent of your camera experience?
Yeah, I pretty much just like friends that knew I had a camera, they would ask if I can do their family photos or did like a wedding. And so I'm like, I have some experience with this, but I would rather go into real estate in general.
Yeah. Okay. So it was just like it mixed the two well because you liked camera
Oh,
stuff and then
yeah.
you were already thinking about real estate. So it's kind of like
Yeah, I'm like, wow, literally the best of both worlds. I've lived on Zillow my whole life, and it's just like, the houses that don't have great photos, it's like you just keep on scrolling, and so you already see the power of good photos.
yeah. What, I mean, I guess besides that part of it, besides that you had the experience and stuff, what have you found that you've liked the most about, because you're doing about 8K a month now, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So like as you built your business and where your business is now, what do you most enjoy about the industry? I mean, I would imagine the money's not bad, but like what are some things that make you excited about it or that you like?
I think that so I have some background in military as well. I was
Yeah.
3 years in the Army, and I feel like it takes the best aspects of every job I've had out there. I've had random jobs, and just like working with people, and I feel like every interaction with potentially new clients, it's always been like such a gift of who you're going to meet, and I just knew like getting into this world would be like, this just makes sense. Um, I feel like it's the relationship aspect that I look forward to the most. And I love the challenges of you're thrown into a new situation every day. You don't know what you're coming into. And like you come to a house and you see everyone's already stressed out, and the homeowner, I'm like, look, just sit down. I will clean up a little, don't worry. And you can already see they're like teary eyed, giving you a hug. And it's like, we're just here to help and might just be a photographer, but I feel like we were meant to meet. So that's just kind of how I see every every aspect of it. It's like I love that there's so many areas that I need to grow in, and I can I can see the potential in it, and so it's just like the newness of it.
Do you think you like the unknown side of things? So you mentioned that every day is just something different. You don't know what's going to happen. So do you think you enjoy that part of the business of just like every home is different, every homeowner is going to be different, every situation is different? Like, do you enjoy it? I guess that's
I
what I'm
think
asking.
it's like it's a good kind of stress because it's like there are some situations that you go in there and you're like, oh no, what have I signed up for? So it's good and bad. I feel like it's way better than an office job for sure. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, as we're all sitting off. I mean, I'm in the car, but you get the point.
But no, it's just like, yeah, I love the challenge of it and any opportunity to grow. And that's why, like I am at the 8K mark, which I'm even shocked I got there because when I first started the coaching program,
Mm.
then my coach would be like, "Okay, what's your goal for this month?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, let's say 1,000. I don't want to be too greedy." And so it's like I said I would make 1,000, and I did. So I'm like, "Okay, let's push it a little bit." And so it really is like realizing your mindset is everything. And I feel like for me, it might have been a slower start with undoing some of the mindsets that were holding me back and just like personal challenges that came up in my life. And like I'm laying the foundation, but definitely this coming year, I'm looking to really, really dive into it a lot more.
Yeah, and you're at a great. I mean, if you're doing that kind of revenue, um, that's when you really start to get some good momentum, because you have so many clients, especially with your approach. And, I'm sure it's great to work with you as an agent because the first thing you said that you like was building the relationship. And that's, a big part of what grows the business. So you have a good year ahead in that sense. What, as you were building your business, what are some of the things that were challenging for you? You said mindset stuff, like, if someone's listening to this just starting or, maybe not getting momentum in their business, I guess what mindset changes helped you grow?
Um, sorry. I think even the feeling of, you don't have as much experience as the next person. That was a huge thing where I think we talked about that too. Why would someone choose me over someone else that their work is clearly better? And it really is connecting with you as an individual that has made all the difference. Because I've had agents that they're like, we don't care that they're not perfect. We will learn together, we'll grow. And so that's made all the difference of the agents that have been more difficult, then you can't be all smiles with them because they walk all over you
Yeah.
and they don't think you're very serious as a person and that it might reflect in your work. But I've learned to be like a little more no nonsense with them. And I think um, it's just so funny to see them come around
Yeah.
where they might give you attitude and like they're unimpressed with your work and then they come back reluctantly to thank you for your pictures because they got so many compliments. Like, you're welcome. I hope I never hear from you again.
What's
And then
funny?
they're scheduling again. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of so like they always say that ego is based in fear, right? Like if someone has an ego, it's usually because they're fearful. And so you see that occasionally, or sometimes more than occasionally, with real estate agents is like they want, they're small business owners too. They really want this to work, and so sometimes that comes across as ego. And it's really just I always think about that whenever I'm irritated working with somebody. I'm like, oh, they're probably just scared. Like a lot of small business owners, they're like trying to get the next deal. So that for me helped me not be like, what's wrong with you? Because when you have a service business, you deal with great people, you deal with people that are rude, and those are the challenging ones, obviously. So, what
Yeah.
oh, go for it if you're going to say something.
Also, something else is when you're first starting something like this, obviously nobody in your um, close circle of friends, family, nobody's ever done anything like this. So everyone is fearful for you of like, are you sure about this? Have you looked at it? I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm willing to try it out because nobody has tried it out. And it's like, look where this has gotten you. Of
Yeah.
you're scared to get out of your comfort zone. And that's one thing that like if I'm comfortable in something, I need to continue growing. And so I would tell them, okay, I'm not going to say anything, but let my life be the testimony. And once you see it changing, then you'll want to be part of it. And I've been seeing that a lot too. Of can you train me to do the same thing? Like I would love to, because I've seen how it's changed my life, and I want to do the same thing too.
Yeah, I love the let your life be the proof kind of concept because, yeah, I mean, what you're saying is something I think a lot of people face. And like you said, it's not that they don't want you to succeed, it's that they're scared you're not. And so it comes across as a lot of negativity and that discourages a lot of people. What made it so you just, I mean, to put it more bluntly, what made it so you didn't care and did it anyway?
I think that everything was just so structured, even in your videos, that I think I, like, in a day went through all of your videos and I'm like, I know, like, I don't even know the guy, but I know this works. Like, um, because it all just makes sense. If it seemed a little more sketchy with, like the mystery of find out more about, how to do this, then I would have been more hesitant.
Yeah.
But it's like, again, you see the positive aspects, and
Yeah.
like again, I can't get somewhere new if I'm just doing the same old things either.
Yeah, that's a perspective. It's hard. I mean, everybody has it to some extent and has to develop it to some extent. So I was very much not that way when I was starting my business. So I think that's like part of why, I mean, you've grown your business more quickly than I grew mine, right? It's because you're willing to do that. Um, that being said, there's always that 20% of you that was like, not even about scam or not scam, just the industry. There's probably
Mm-hmm.
20% of you that was like, is this going to work? So was there a moment when you're like, okay, this is going to work? I think all of us have that like thing that stood out, the first shoot or the first $1,000 month. Like, do you have one of those? And what was it, if so?
Um, I feel like when I first started doing the Instagram method, then it's like you feel like you're just going through the motions of like, hey, I'm a real estate photographer. It is that um, I keep forgetting what you call it, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Of you're just going through the motions, and I'm like, I'm just trusting these people that something is going to come out of it. And so when you're seeing that positive feedback, then I think that really helps, but also like building out your order form, and like I think there was one builder, he never responded to my DM on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's fine. I'm going to follow up with you anyways. But he's like, out of the blue, 6 months after messaging him initially, he never even responded. He asks, what's your availability next Tuesday? I'm like, well, hello to you too. And he's like, I just need photos. And I'm like, okay, well, if you can fill out the order form, we can get that scheduled. And then next thing you know, he buys my most expensive package and like putting some add-ons. I'm like, okay, what just happened? I thought that was there as a decoration. I didn't think people would actually like, oh, that's nice. But I was just in shock. And even like the little work that I had done, he was already praising my work, and he'd seen what I've done for other agents. I'm like, that's so crazy. It's actually working.
Yeah.
So I think that was a huge moment for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool. It was a there's nothing like that feeling of getting that big package payment. You're just like, huh?
Yeah.
So,
And it's like, especially when they order everything and
yeah.
then a real Twilight as well. Like,
Oh
of
gosh.
course. Of course. And then I'd never done a video before, and they schedule or they ordered a video, and I didn't even have a stabilizer. I'm like, okay, I'm buying a stabilizer today and I'm doing a video tomorrow. That's
Yeah.
just how it's been.
That's awesome. It's interesting too. I think like what you just said sums up the the way you get over imposter syndrome, right? Like you talked about, it was just, you did Instagram method, you set up your page, and then you got a booking, and then before you, it's like you solve imposter syndrome by not being an imposter, right? Like doing the actual work. And I think it's interesting because, people don't like the feeling of imposter syndrome. Obviously, it's not a great feeling. The way you get rid of the feeling fast as possible is to not be an imposter, is to go through the steps. So it's this interesting thing where like you felt it, but you just got past it. And so you didn't feel it as much as some people that are, if you're sitting here in the live and you've been here a lot of times, you probably feel that imposter syndrome every live. When you're done, you're like, what did I just watch? Am I really going to do this? And the way you kind of get over that feeling is like Emmanuel has said, like you just do the work and then it goes away and you're not an imposter anymore. I love the story about the builder. Rod, Kenny, do you guys have any questions for Manuela you want to ask?
I'm like gonna fight Rod. Go for it, Rod.
I think we were both waiting on each other.
I was like, I see you. I know you. I know when you're,
Usually, I'm like, when I lean in, I always like, it sounded like you started coaching and started the business at the same time. It seemed like, right? Or did you start the business a little first? It was at the same time?
Yeah, no, I started the coaching and then the business shortly after.
Okay, gotcha. So I always like, I'm always curious, like the month before that moment and just kind of like the month after that moment is like always my like curious points in the journey with everybody. And I know that was, I don't know, was this a year ago or so?
More than that now, right?
It'll be 2 years in July.
2 years in July. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was 2 years ago. Okay. So in that, like, what was it like as far as, like you said, the moment you found that it was real was after you jumped in and got that builder client, but obviously you trusted enough to jump in first, which I deal on the front lines with. A lot of times people have that worry of trusting like that breakthrough moment's going to happen, right? So like for you, what made you still go? I think you alluded to maybe some family having some opinions and friends having opinions. I remember when I first built a business, it was like, be careful. And it's like some of that rings in your head and it kind of plays with you a little bit. So like, what was the thoughts and the challenges, and what did you have to overcome to say, you know what, I'm going to jump in to this business and jump into coaching? Just like the month before coaching or before that, what was the thoughts there is my curious thought.
So I've just been trying to figure out, like, I've always wanted to start my own business. I just didn't know what that was. And I've always had like 1,000 ideas, but no follow through. And so it's like nothing has been enough to where I really wanted to dive in. And so it's like, again, with my random jobs I've always done, like I'd be happy to work 3 or 4 jobs and just to do something new. And so at one point I worked at Starbucks and I'm like, I just want like maybe a side job and maybe I should go back to Starbucks or something like that. And so I applied and they wouldn't accept me. I'm like, excuse me. And I'm like, wow, this is really sad if Starbucks won't even take me. And so I'm like, that's okay. I just have to find something else. I can't get back to just what I'm familiar with. And so that's when I just kept on researching and like, I need to find a way. And so again, that was just like an answer to prayers of how timely that came up, your videos, and it just worked together so well that I'm like, the timing is everything. And it's just like the initial maybe price tag of things, then I'm like, I don't even care at this point. Like, you just feel overall peace about the whole thing, and it's like, it will work out.
Yeah.
And so that was it, where I'm like, we're trying to just do something, and it ended up being way better than I ever anticipated.
Sounds like you trusted universal timing is kind of what it boiled down to. Is just the universe was nudging you and you were getting signs. And sometimes people, it can be hard to kind of trust those signs and just lean in on them. And it sounds like that's what you did. And I see a lot of people like genuinely on the front line struggle with that because that's easier said than done to like trust that lean. So I applaud you for doing that. That's a big deal. That's awesome that happened. So what were you saying, Eli?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, that's a really like, that stops a lot of people from a lot of things in their business, not just starting it. It's like starting it is one time, but having that skill set of knowing, and being willing to do something that feels a little bit risky, I think is it's the making of a successful person. Like that skill set is very, very important because you run into it at different, I'm sure you've had these experiences as well, Manuela, but like you run into it at different times in your business. It's not just when you first start it. It's like maybe, for you coming up on hiring somebody, you're probably going to have those same feelings. But my guess is you're not going to be the person that, basically flatlines their business for 2 years before they grow because they're on the fence. And so
Mhm.
I think some of that, it's like, I would love to ask the question of like how you got over it. But I think sometimes it's just, people do that. You just have to do it sometimes. Like sometimes there's not like it doesn't make it easy, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like you still did it
Mhm.
despite fear of doing it. Um,
Is
I
that
will,
what happened though? Like, or did you have any other aspects that helped you get
Uh,
over that fear, or you were just like, you know what it is. I'm just gonna do it, and the worst thing that could happen is whatever. I just go back to Starbucks if
yeah. Yeah, I think that initially the military experience really helped with that because again, like I always prayed and I told God like anything but the military. I want nothing to do with it. And then just like one thing led to another and here I was signing up for the military. And I'm like, I'm probably the most terrified person you'll meet of, leaving the comforts of home and I'm like the youngest of seven. And
wow.
so I'm just like used to being the baby in the family and protected. And so joining the military, I'm coming face to face with all the fears I've ever had of being away from home, getting life insurance. I think I'm gonna die in boot camp. And so I'm like, you know, again with that experience, I knew that if something crazier were to happen down the road where I need to move across the country, then I had no idea I'd be moving to Texas. And I'd never even stepped foot in Texas. And I'm like, I just want to move there. And so I think it really did like work out step by step of like I've dealt with worse. We can do this, no problem. And I'll
Ooh,
trade in the rifle for shooting a camera.
yeah, that's a little less scary on this end. No rifles,
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
That
it's
was
interesting because, like, I mean, you could think like there's worse, when like you're in a grind or something, you could be thinking like there's worse things that could happen that I could be doing right now. So might as well just try to enjoy this and continue moving forward. It is hard, and you're accepting that it's hard. It's not like you're ignoring it, but you're just like, yeah, I mean, there's worse things that could happen. So might as well just continue.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like in those moments, it's like boot camp where you're the most miserable you've ever been, but you're having a blast with these people because you're miserable
Wow.
together. And so it's like anything else when like the agent is having their personal issues, then I'm like, such first world problems, you know?
Yeah,
It's
you
like
got
you
the
really don't
context.
take it as seriously. It's like of course to them you're going to be respectful and everything, but
You
um
don't get in their level. There's like that phrase that's never argue with an idiot. They'll drag you to their level and beat you with experience. And I think about that
mhm.
so much. That's kind of what you did. You didn't let them drag you into what they were doing. You could keep a level head because you had that context of like, this is a problem, but it's only a problem in the area where there's really not big actual problems. I
Right.
think that's, yeah.
I forgot
So,
how much I love that saying.
yeah,
They'll
no,
beat you with
that's how I
experience. That's
don't
so
take
funny.
arguments. I refuse because I'm like, they're going to beat me with experience.
Is that why you never argue with me?
Oh no.
But you're telling me you're experienced as an idiot. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
it was like a self-deprecation. I don't know what happened there.
okay, question for you. This one has popped up a couple times. And maybe you didn't use it directly in this way, but like you talked about a little bit of context that being in the military gave you. What else has it done for you in this business, or how would you talk to another veteran thinking about starting their business?
About starting their business?
Yeah, or just anything that it's been
Okay.
an advantage, a disadvantage, like
Yeah, I
that.
think even meeting some agents that were prior military as well, they told me they accepted my offer because the fact that I was military.
Yeah.
And they said they're trying to surround themselves with other veterans and um, just realizing that is a huge, not like selling point, but it does help a lot.
It's
Would you
connection.
say that like in your messages, like veteran owned? Would that language come
Oh
out?
yes, it's on my
Nice. Okay.
profile. And then I think I included some of my military pictures as well, just for them to stumble across. But I will definitely, if I'm at the shoot and maybe I know that they were prior military, then I like to include that in our conversation too. And they're like, "Oh my goodness, our whole family's military, and we'll definitely be um, using your services."
And it
Yeah.
furthers the connection, like you said in the
Yeah,
beginning, right? It really
yeah,
does. So
definitely.
yeah.
And it's just like um, you do get that deeper connection with the agents right away.
Yeah, it's important to, I think most people have something they can relate to a close knit group of other people with, right? And so, like, it's not like a use it in a negative way thing, but it's a way you can use. Everybody has some element of their story, their past that will connect with people, and I think when you lean into that, it helps your business so much. A lot of people try to be professional and share nothing personal about them, and they come across as like, we do this, and it's like you miss out on so much advantage by leaning into who you are and like things you've done, because other people connect. So I think that's just the lesson that um applies to anybody. If you're not past military, you still have other things you can connect with people, and so it's just like finding what that is and connecting is really powerful. That's how you build those deeper relationships. Okay, a couple more tactical questions for you. We talked a lot about, which I think is the most important part, the mindset of it, because that's what determines what actions you actually take. But let's pivot over to actions for a second, just to talk about the tactical more. Did you do free shoots, and was that part of your process?
Definitely, yes. And I think I think it took me a couple months to even get paid anything, just
Yep.
because I was fine doing everything free too. Like if they were to ask me, like I was shooting a mansion and they needed more photos, then I was happy to just do the photos instead of upselling anything, because I was still in the mindset of I'm still new at this. I'm just using it all as practice. And that was also something else where I felt almost like an emotional connection to the prices of feeling bad charging them for anything. So just getting over that and realizing like this is the normal price for services and they're asking you to do something for them. And um, so I think it did take me a couple months, but it was the free shoots. And even if agents were telling other agents and asking if they too can get a free shoot, I was just doing it for everyone, because I'm like, you got to trust the process. And again, like family members, friends, they're like, you're crazy, you're wasting all this time and money and everything to do free shoots. And but
and now
that
you
really,
make six figures.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it just everything made sense. And then again, when you start getting paid, then you stop questioning anything.
Yeah. What did you? I think I probably understand where it's coming from, but just speak on it, I guess. What made you feel uncomfortable about charging at the start? Was it just it
That's
felt
what
like
I
a
was
lot of?
gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is the fact that like I didn't have any experience with this, and how could I be charging someone something that I'm almost like you're in the learning phase? Then I just didn't feel right about like using my experience on their dime, or
Yeah.
however you say it. Um, but yeah, it is that feeling of like you're just not qualified enough.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because at least it didn't stop you from. I think that feeling kind of stops people from even doing free, because they start thinking there's one of two directions, right? One is, well, I'm worth more, I'm not going to do it for free, which is a silly mindset, and that keeps a lot of people from making the money they could have made. But then the other side of it is like, I'm not even ready to do free. I don't want to waste these people's time. And so you want to have like a balance, right? You don't want to be on either side. And that's kind of thing, like maybe you were more towards the side of like, I don't want to charge them than
Hmm.
recommended, right? But that's better than being too much on the other side.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think just seeing like how helpful it was to the agents, how thankful they were to almost like some of them really didn't have the funds and they
Yep.
didn't know what they were going to do for the listing. And so it was like for them, it was a godsend too with the timing. And so
Yep.
just seeing like, wow, this is amazing that it's really working out for everyone. And I was happy to see their listings sell faster. And it was just like, I felt like I was part of the process and that was payment enough for me just to know that I was helping.
Hmm.
You
And
probably got referrals through that, I'm sure.
yeah,
Because yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say not to pivot it just directly to that, because like that on its own, just the enjoyment that you get from that is great, but it's also what builds like super deep connections. I talk about Jeremy, one of our clients, a lot, and he was someone like built most of our business, and we did a shoot for him, and we went kind of all out on the media, and like it meant something to him, and we got to kind of build each other's businesses, if you will. Like he grew, we grew. It's just cool, like that can be the start of it, because it means something to someone, especially if they were lower on money and you did that. Like they remember that, and it genuinely helps them. We always talk about that real estate agents are small business owners too, and they have the same challenges, so you can kind of relate in that. And so it's like if someone did a bunch of free editing for you or something, you'd be like, oh, I remember that, and you might not always use them, but you'd think a little bit more before you left. And I think that's cool, and it's
Yeah.
more fun to run a business like that.
Yeah, I have one builder that I work for, that I did the free shoot for them, but I also did like 3 houses for them in one day, and it didn't end up going anywhere. I didn't hear from them for another month or 2. And so I reach out, I'm like, if you didn't like something, I can, reshoot, or happy to work with you. And the builder's like, no, your work is fantastic, which it wasn't. Looking back, I'm like, I can't even look at those pictures. And they were like, we've been trying to get you to be our main photographer. I'm like, well, you could have said something. Here I was,
Stressing out about
silent. You
You're
don't
scared to
yeah.
ask you. They're like, should we ask her? I don't know.
Yeah, we're like, it's just the silence. You assume that they're unhappy about something, but you never know what's happening behind the scenes. That the agent that was in charge of that community, they were using someone else. And so the builder kept telling them, you need to fire them and we need to move on to this photographer. And so she ends up using me, but then going back to her old photographer. And they called her into the office and had a side by side screen of the old photos versus mine. And they're like, we know you didn't use her. What happened?
That's amazing.
And so, I talked to her, and she's like, "I'm so embarrassed that they told you, but I'm glad you did, because I've never experienced such good customer service, and like
Wow.
your work really is amazing. It's just your prices are a little up there for, which it's funny that alone, for some agents you're under the market, for others you're too expensive,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, well, we can work something out, because if it's with a builder and they have so much business, and it was like a $50 difference.
Oh my
And
goodness.
and I was like, no, like with the amount of work they took to get me to be their photographer, like we can work something out. And she's like, oh my goodness, thank you. And like, if that's the case, I have 35 houses for you
Oh,
and 15 more on their way. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah, and that's been my number one agent. Like, she's been referring everyone to me, and I tell people I would probably be on the streets if it weren't for
was it?
her. Like, it's really made a huge difference.
Yeah, and you only need one of those, to give you the work and to refer you. And it's just like one person, one good relationship can change so much, which I love that about owning a business. You know what I mean? It's just it's fun. It's like fishing in a way. You're just waiting for the big one to come around. And it's like yeah. So I want to ask you like 2 questions, and I won't keep you here all night. And thank you for your time already. So one of them, we'll start with this one, which is, what's the future for your business? Are you wanting to scale, or like, what are you excited about doing with your business? Are you super happy where it is now? What does that look like?
For me, I've been doing like 2 service areas, like Austin and San Antonio.
Yep.
And so a lot of driving, but I know it's all temporary, because I do want to put more time into growing the business and scaling. So if I could have down the road a photographer here and there, then it'll be more doable. I don't want to be just the solo photographer. And so definitely, like, as I've been dealing with my personal challenges in my life, then the foundation has been built. And so now I can go all out. And I feel like just sky's the limit with how much the business can grow and seeing everyone else's success stories. I'm like, definitely want to scale.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's great being solo. You know, the margins are higher. It's fun, but there's just you're one of the. I agree with this comment. You know, it says a good, grounded, friendly, and giving personality goes a long way, and I think it goes a long way with your clients, and that's why you've built a great business. But it also goes a long way when you go to build a team, and so I think that element for you is going to be a big benefit that you have. It's just you would. There's a lot of people to be terrible to work for, and nobody wants to work for them for very long. And so if you don't have that, you have a huge advantage with team building. So I think, I would imagine you'll enjoy that part of it a lot.
Yeah, it really just starts feeling like a game ultimately.
Yeah, it is, and you just kind of it's fun, it's not to like make it there's a game element of it, but it's very serious at the same time, especially when you're first starting. Like, it starts serious, but then you start to have fun with it and it becomes a game over time. And I think that's really the fun part, where it's less about can I pay rent and more about where can I take this thing. So like you're in that phase now and like moving into that phase more. And that's just, I think you're going to crush it with that.
I feel like it's just like you're getting out of that survival mentality of you're seeing a job as a way to pay the bills. But I'm just like, the freedom that comes with now you have all this time. Imagine how many hours you would be spending like working a 9 to 5. Sorry, guys. But like that amount of time you could have just worked 1 hour or two and good for 2-3 days. You don't have to do anything. And so it's just like, wow, like you can actually dream again. And you're not like, scheduling things a few years in advance because maybe I'll take a vacation if I can afford it. But it's really like freeing for sure.
There's nothing I can add to that. That was great. I agree. Last question. For people that aren't there yet and they're kind of in that, scarcity survival thing, they know they want to start this business. What's your advice to them? And I just want to get one thing out of the way, not join coaching. Like, of course, when they work, then they should be in coaching, but like, what's your advice to them as a human and like what steps to take and how to think about things?
I would say again, like it is scary because it's such a big step and it's like it takes a lot of your time just to get it up and running, but I think it's so rewarding with again, like what I said with you're not gonna get somewhere new by doing the same things you've always done. I think it's that leap you have to take in order to get somewhere new, and there's so many people that have done it, and just seeing that as they just want you to have like a better life as well of I don't sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, you're good. I know what you're saying too. It's just like there's like the people that there's a lot of people who are going to support you and there's a lot of people who are going to be scared and in essence kind of not support you in a way, but ultimately all of them want that for you. So it's just taking the step to get uncomfortable is how I look at it. And that's kind of what your core message has been. Like when you do something uncomfortable, you get things you've never had before. And there's bad things for starting a business too. It takes a lot of work, but there's downsides to every decision. And so I like what you said about you can kind of dream now. I think it's important to try to do that even when you're in the stage of being in survival, because it gives you the motivation or a little bit more push to go like, okay, getting uncomfortable is worth it because if I do it, here's potentially what could happen. And it's not just about the vacation, right? It's not about buying something you want to buy. That stuff's cool. I think it's just more about the ability to get some control back and have the, freedom where you can. because
Yeah.
that's what really, to me, makes life, interesting and exciting.
Yeah, and especially like you're not going to see the direct results right away. And so just it's almost like you're throwing things in a hole, like you're not filling that hole up. You don't see the difference it's making and until it starts making that difference. Um, so it's almost like you're working blindly. Just
Yeah.
you have to trust the process and there's going to be days that you don't feel like doing anything, like is it even worth it? And it's like you just have to go through the motions in those times. But it really does pay off and it is life changing. Like I'm telling other family members about this and they're starting their own businesses now
Awesome.
and they're like so excited. And it's like just giving that spark of hope to someone else too. It's so rewarding.
Were these the same ones that were skeptical, by the way?
They were, yes.
I love what you've done here because what a lot of times it's crazy. What you've actually done is really cool because instead of proving people wrong, you're leading people right. Because I love that saying, don't prove people wrong, but lead people right. And those skeptical thoughts they had were just in their mind pure protection. That fear that they have, it's projected onto you, but it comes from a place of protection, but it can accidentally be a prevention, but not typically. Sometimes it could be different in whatever case, but instead of going with that prove people wrong mentality, you went with that lead people right, and now helping them instead of being like, nah, you said I couldn't do this. Like I just love that a genuine approach you have in every circumstance is why I feel like your agents have seen that and felt that and why they love working with you. So I don't know, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
that you do that.
it's just so exciting, especially when you're like, should I wait for a better time? Like it might not work for us in this season of our life. And I feel like in those moments you have to start now because if you don't, a few like 6 months down the road, then you're gonna say, what if I had started? What if like maybe I started and had a slower start, but at least it would have been going. And then you're going to have something else to regret. I'm like, I don't want to live in regret to where, 2 years down the road, you could have had this huge successful business, but you were too scared. And you don't want fear to hold you back from amazing opportunities.
What a privilege it was to have you on here. So thank you for that and for your time. And I always want to
Thank you.
say something back when people have a good answer, but it's like I'm not going to add to your answers. I'm going to take away. So having to exercise restraint. Anyway, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
keep watching your business grow. So
Well, thank you for everything. And yes,
Thank you.
Have a good one.
you
that was
too.
awesome. Bye. That was amazing.
Absolutely. Love it. Love having people like that come in here because I feel like that's the whole point of having like these YouTube lives because we're kind of like a big community and people don't feel alone, especially like, a lot of times I'll use me as an example, growing the business and whatnot and me being like, crap, am I crazy? Like, is this supposed to be happening? And then, for example, calling Jared and just being like, yo, I'm going through this. Like, do you have any advice? He's like, oh yeah, I went through that already. Like, here's what you need to do. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, there's actually people going through the same stuff. And like, it made me feel better. So I can just assume that, 74 people here are like, yeah, I was scared of growing, or like, I am scared of like even starting. But Emmanuel or having, just in general, like people here definitely helps a lot. So yeah, definitely loved having her here. A lot of good mindset.
About the eliminating future regret, like the regret of wondering what could have been, but now it's like you don't know what could have been, and that's even worse sometimes about not knowing what could have been. And instead she just said, no, let me just lean in on it and just make it happen. So I don't know, that was an incredible, yeah.
I mean, it goes back to like the boring way to put it is opportunity cost, right? It's what you could have done with that time if you'd use it differently. And so, one thing, like she said, I mean, it is uncomfortable. It's like a step back, before you take a step forward, right? So, for her, the first work she put in didn't change her life for the better, in at least financially. I mean, I'm sure she was excited, which excitement is worth a lot. You can have all the money, but if you're like dreading your life, what's the point? And so you could say that she didn't get anything right away, but I don't maybe think that's true. She did get excitement and she was, I'm going to do this. but there wasn't a financial improvement like that, right? It's like you actually had to, it's like an investment. You know, if you buy a rental property, you're actually going down in money when you first buy it. You got to put a down payment, all that stuff, right? But then the idea is that the house goes up in value, collect rent, and overall you're made whole, but it's in the future. And then that's what messes up a lot of people and messed up me and continues to. You know, I miss out on opportunities. I take opportunities I shouldn't have all the time. And so you have to be thoughtful about that. And that's why I think, you know, the uncomfort is in the case of the rental property, right? It's the paying the down payment, but you're building equity for the future. And so I think you have to kind of figure out what that is for you. There's not like an area of life that's really much, you don't get more effective when you're made comfortable in any area, right? I mean, physically, if you're comfortable all the time, you just, you know, and you don't feel good, you get health problems, right? If you don't create any uncomfort for yourself financially by investing and by doing new stuff, then you just kind of get the same old. And so I think it's, like a lot of, sometimes we get people in the chat and like great group today. So shout out to you guys, but they'll be like, when are you going to talk about some tactics? And it's like, we do all of the time, right? We know the Instagram method, we do the stuff. The problem is you don't do it, you know? So it's like, well, why don't you do it? And I'm not saying you, I'm saying you as those people that don't, right? And it's like, well, the reason is because something in their mindset is preventing it. And it sounds fluffy. And if you would have told me that when I was first starting my business, I'd be like, kind of idiot, are you talking about mindset? We need to get to work, right? But then I was the guy that needed the mindset and I didn't get to work because I sat there with all these dumb tactics, not knowing what I was trying to do. And so it's just so interesting. Like, it's so funny how the things you think at the start, especially when you're first starting a business, about what business is or what it should be, or what, it's like all of it's untrue. And you really have to, what she said is, she had a quote unquote slow start. I don't know if you call that a slow start or not, but she had to unlearn stuff and then relearn it, right? And so I think that's just something to keep in mind if you feel like you're not making progress. There's all this stuff like sometimes you're just gonna have to go through the uncomfort. You're gonna have to learn a lot of new things. You know, it's like what everybody thinks is the right route. You know, you have all these people tell you, I'll stop in 1 second, I promise. But you have all these people tell you, you should never give free shoots. People that literally don't make any money. Right. And I'm not talking about photographers. I'm talking about your family will tell you that. Right. Thankfully, my family didn't, because, you know, great parents and they understand building a business and they wanted that. But not everybody has that. And so it's like you're going to have people that are like tell you, and then you have to look at what they are doing and be like, is that what I want? Because if you want to do something most people are doing, you're going to take advice and do things most people wouldn't. And so just keep that in mind. And I like what you said, Kenny, about like you have to get in community that makes you feel like you're not crazy. And so that's what we can create here, right? We get people coming on and sharing. You know, we got the chance to coach Emanuela. It was awesome. She built an awesome business. And so it's cool to see her like share, come back. Anyway, what you guys have?
Yeah, you're kind of going against the grain without the community side. You know, it's just like trying to play professional baseball and everyone's like, what are you doing? Get a job. And then you start hanging around a bunch of college or professional baseball players, it just becomes more fathomable at that point and more real and more within grasp and worth it's worth the jump now because I think I actually can do it. It's just those year round. So yeah, that was huge. I think there's a lot of people asking pretty serious questions right now. One of them is like, are you in a car? Let's just address that real quick.
You know what's funny? So not only am I in a car, long story short, my wife was
Uber
like,
van?
Not an Uber van. My wife wanted a quote unquote mom car. So I went up and got one and I didn't make it back to do my meeting. So I'm in the back. But the worst part is it's like some feature in this car after 30 minutes of idling turns off. And so it's like 95 degrees in here and I haven't got enough to restart the car. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, you were supposed to restart that. Oh, bless you.
Yeah, sometimes I got to suffer a little bit too. It's okay. There was an actual serious question here, which I'll pin. I thought you were going to pin this when you said that, Rod. So Eli, did you go through the 2008 recession? If so, how did it impact your business? And what are your concerns if a similar recession happens soon? What can we do to prepare for it? So I did not. In 2008, I was 13. So I was not doing real estate then. I did think a lot about that. I started my real estate photo business in we moved to Texas 2011 with my family. I think I started shooting like 2012. It's all kind of a blur, but a long time ago. Anyway, 2013 maybe. I was really worried about that when I first started. And because obviously you don't want to build this business and have the market just like put you out of business. And so I'd ask agents all the time. And what's so funny is the answer I got from them was, it was my best year ever as an agent. And I was like, the heck does that mean? How could it be? And from an agent and a real estate photographer are different. So I'll just kind of reverse from agent. So what happened was, because it became harder to sell listings, all of the part-time, quote unquote, easy money real estate agents got out of the business. So while there was less sales happening and a lot more inventory, there was way less agents. So it was condensed among the agents who were actually professional. And so they made more money, a lot of them, right? Some didn't, depended on the market a little bit. But everybody I asked was like, no, it's great. So what does that mean if you're a real estate photographer? Well, those same agents, the ones that are the part-timers, the easy money, when real estate's selling fast, they get into it. Those aren't the ones that hire photographers. Those are the ones that take cell phone photos or do the bare minimum media. So not to say it's good if that happens, because it's absolutely not. It's just you have to look at things from the photographer's perspective to get a true point of view. So what I mean by that is, in 2008 there were a ton of listings, right? The problem was nobody was buying them. There was so many because people were foreclosing and trying to get out of their house. So there was this flood of homes onto the market. And what does that mean? Well, it means that if you want to sell a house, you have to do even more marketing to try to get it seen. So we don't want to crash. But whenever real estate slows down, I've never been through a 2008 style, but there's been multiple, smaller scale slowdowns since then. It's good because they have to do more to market the house. And so what I would say is, don't let the fear of that stop you, because it definitely scared me into inaction when I was first starting. It's like, man, I should just focus that all energy all in building the business. The other thing is, let's say you have 50 clients, right? And then the market cuts in half. Well, you have an easier ability to solve that than a lot of people. You just get another 50 clients and then you're back to normal. And so I like that when you own your business, you have more control. Maybe the market's that you're at the mercy of the market a little, but not really. I only think you're at the mercy of things really when you have a job, because what if that business gets crushed? You're still exposed to the market in a job of any kind, really, unless you're like, you're a firefighter or something like that. But then you have different risks. And so there's a risk in everything. And if you're worried about like economic risk from the market, I would say you just got to focus on what you can control. There's always an upside. There's money to be made in any market.
That was good. I mean, like exactly what you were saying. There's always an upside. There's always a downside. You just got to pick the right option.
Yeah.
What's going to make more sense. Yeah.
Okay. So here's you're muted, Mr.
Should we shout out the coaches real quick? I mean, I don't know. I was curious.
I believe
Karen was her launch coach. It looked like.
Oh, Karen was her launch coach. Okay. I was going to say Jared. That was wrong.
It looks like Karen was involved with her a good bit in the beginning, and then
Todd did some
Harley
some research.
Is now her forward coach.
Yeah, so we get to work with her again to grow it to the next level.
So shout out.
That's so fun to see, by the way. I like working with real estate photographers who are already doing this. We get to come in and fix their business. That's fun, but there's nothing quite as good as like we work with somebody in launch, which are people just starting, they grow their business, then we get to work with them in forward. It's fun. Anyway, there's a good question right here. When starting out, how can you work around a full-time schedule? Micah, the thing I recommend is, most people have a full-time work schedule, so you're in good company there. What I would consider is you really want to do some math around your situation. So let's say you make $4,000 a month and your goal is to quit your job. That's going to be, $250 per shoot. So what is that? 16 shoots a month to replace that. Is that the right math for? Yeah, 16 shoots a month, roughly at a $250 average order value. So you just have to go, with my time that I'm not at work, can I fit in 16 shoots? What most people do is they'll shoot a few on the weekends and they'll do some in the evenings if possible. And I always, some people quit their job and go all in, and that always scares me when people do that. They usually make it work because there's a certain pressure you get. But like our recommendation, not just mine, like our team's recommendation is you be super practical unless you have a ton of savings. And you just go, how much do I need to replace my income? Because then you're not taking a risk. Your only risk is your time, right? Like if you just work more, you're not risking your family. And I think, there's something to be said for not doing that.
It's gonna be ready. Once they both scale and you're about to scale out of a job, you'll feel it at that point. But once it does, the piece goes right back. And I think Micah was asking earlier about weekend shoots. What are your thoughts about weekend shoots? I mean, sometimes we have people who can only do weekend shoots. Is that okay? Is that not okay?
I gotta turn on the air in this car.
He's in Miami in a parked car in Miami with no air, so we might lose Eli soon if we're not careful. So let's. I wish we had like intermission music playing.
That countdown music was pretty good. We can put that again. 30 seconds till Eli comes back.
Go ahead. We'll answer this real quick.
Go for it, Mr. Rod. I mean, I can answer too.
We did
messaging people on Instagram accurately. to get their business. That was too vague. I'm sorry. All right. So what do you think about weekend shoots for Micah? I remember he was asking about weekend shoots. Like, is that okay?
Yeah,
some people can only do weekend shoots. Is that fine? Do you see agents like that? Don't like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the more availability you have, the better. But I always tell people, you don't need every agent to be willing to work with you at the start. You just need a few to get you enough shoots to quit your job. So, I try to make everything, I try to say everything accurately. I don't want to discourage and I don't want to overhype where you're like, Eli was lying to me. That's not my goal either way. So like, yes, some agents will be like, no, sorry, I can't work with you if you only work weekends. But you don't need those. You need the ones that are like, yeah, absolutely. So that's my take on it. Man, that air conditioning feels so good. Joanne said, if I dropped one day off my work schedule, would you do Monday? What's the most popular day for agents? It really depends. I think Monday can be kind of busy because in a good way for you, because over the weekend, a lot of people they're signing listing agreements and they're putting the house on the market and they're deciding to do it. And so that can be good. Fridays can also be good. Midweek. I don't know that there's a day. I would say whatever is best for you, do that. And then you'll find agents that will fit around that schedule. So I wouldn't worry about that too much.
Agents sell 24/7. I always remember like asking that too, and wondering that and like, what's the better day? It's just haven't found any data to really like push more towards a day yet. It's just every day is a good day. What's better for you? Like you said, is the perfect answer. Yeah.
Dobson said I'm at 8K a month to have a VA. First of all, nice, Dobson. Yeah, that's about the time we'd recommend you start getting a VA, somewhere between 5 and 10K a month. So you're kind of right in the middle of that. I would absolutely start looking at a VA.
I answered vaguely earlier, so I'll let you answer better than me.
Marcus, the Instagram method is one of the main client getting strategies that we teach. We teach Instagram method, outbound method, and then brokerage presentations and stuff like that. If you go to my YouTube channel, well, you're watching on here right now, so you're already there. But if you go to the lives tab, we did a past lives, 3 of them, different ones, where we showed people how to set up their Instagram. Basically, what you do is you set your Instagram up in a certain way, and then you reach out to agents and offer a free first shoot. So that's one of our methods for getting clients. Like when we work with people in coaching, that's one of the first ones we have them start doing. It's not the only one because you want to there's other methods that work well too. So you kind of sprinkle them in, but it's how the most important skill you can learn. And really what we spend a lot of our time teaching and coaching is how to actually get clients, right? Of course, we have to teach you how to shoot photos, videos, set up your system, software, everything you need. You need that. But that's you learn it in the first couple of weeks. And then the whole focus goes, okay, now I have this skill of real estate media. How do I monetize that? How do I get paid? And so if you're newer to, our community and my channel, you'll notice that I'm a very much I'm trying to build a business here. And so I don't talk a lot about the photography and all that. I teach it, but my focus is to help you build your business and actually make money doing this because no one would shoot real estate for free. It's fun, but it's not fun enough to do it for free. So anyway, that was a long answer made short.
No, I love it. And if Isaac or Aaron or anyone's on right now that has that link to the live critique, the one with Tyler on it, pop it in the chat if Isaac or Aaron are listening.
We should get that link handy.
Not to put him on the spot. I should have an auto link for it to just be like, pew.
But yeah, you and your text expander, whatever that fancy software.
Shout out Text Expander, sponsored by Text Expander.
I want to be as efficient as possible, but nervous about using a VA to scale. Is there a place like Pixelmob to go, a place that verifies? Oh, good question, Wes. Yeah, I mean, most people use onlinejobs.ph is the website where you'll find VAs. It just interview, you'll find someone that you're more comfortable with, do a Zoom interview. It's just like hiring a photographer here in the States. You just go through and talk to people and see who you like. Back-to-back different Wes questions. Wes number 2 says, what does your follow-up conversation look like after a free shoot? I don't want it to sound like, quote, now can you give me money? You really don't have to do a lot of follow-up besides making sure they liked it, Wes. If you do that, most of the time they'll book you again in the future. So it's nice because you don't have to be like that. You can always check in and be like, hey, you have any listings coming up or anything like that? Love to work with you again. But you're just giving them the first shoot free and they understand that. So there's not usually, you don't have to have a conversation like you got to pay for this one. They know that they got to pay. We have
no hiring anybody to go to their homes. None of that. Don't do that.
Rod says stuff
In
so
trouble.
seriously sometimes I can't tell when he's kidding or serious.
He's
Part of our
always
courses
serious.
in our coaching program to teach you that, but we want to avoid it.
You know, I solved one problem I got the error on, but now my computer has 5%, so it's a good day. Wes, pin, whatever it was, I think it went away. Someone asked a pricing question on Coach. I don't see
Am I
it now.
lagging?
Oh no, I'm here. Sorry. That's why we have the book a call thing. So I mean, coaching's not cheap, but it definitely it really depends on where you're at in the process. If you have a business, if you're brand new, that's why we have our team available for you to talk to. It's not that I want to hide the price. We just have different options. It's not just like a one size fits all thing. So talk with them. It's just like, it's like anything, you get what you pay for. And so we built a very supportive model where you have a one-on-one coach community. We basically reverse engineered what it takes to be successful as quickly as possible. We wanted to support you in that way. So you can check out that link there. It was Aaron. It wasn't me ahead of you. It was Mr. whoever's controlling this. Who is controlling
Rod,
this?
it is Rod. You
I'm
know it.
trigger happy now. I'm just
I
clicking
do
everything.
know it. I do know it. Let's see. Have you ever known of a couple or family who've built this into a business? Yeah. Steven, I think that's probably that. It's probably not Stefan, but if I'm wrong, correct me. Either way, yes, that's pretty common. I would say especially a couple building the business together. I mean, there's a lot of those in our community, and there's something to be said about having somebody, as a partner in the business with you. So it's absolutely something you can do that way. We have a great, I think they spoke about it during the conference,
Vision.
Jeffrey and Deanna. They actually so they were in it together, and they just hired their son to be in their business. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a lot of people have that as a goal too, is to build a business that becomes a family business. And I think that's awesome.
I have the old interview with them a while ago with Jeffrey and Deanna.
I don't think they hadn't hired him at that point. I just spoke with them at the conference, and they had just done that, and they were talking about how excited they were. And it was
nice, Roger.
Yeah. Do Kenny or Rod have their own business as well? Just curious. Yes and no. I mean, Rod has absolutely built his own business. Kenny has too. Rod is, I convinced him to come work with me instead. So I don't know if that's a good way to put it, but he's here. And Kenny runs our video editing business called REPP Video Editing. So, yeah.
There we go.
Oh, I thought Rod was about to say something.
Helping y'all is our business.
Is our business. Yeah, we work.
That is our focus, and that's Adrian, if I remember straight.
No way, Rod on the name.
Rod,
Not a
Rod's
day.
to remember names.
Not a day.
You know what is funny, and I can say. I mean, if you guys are here, it's gonna sound like I'm just giving you a compliment, but like people always say that, like I'm the one on the front end content. And so they think I'm the secret sauce, but our business grew the most when I'm not doing stuff, right? It's when other people are involved. So it's interesting. Also, let's see what my computer's at. 3%.
Oh, crap.
Well, thanks everyone for being here today. That was awesome. That was I'm so grateful she came on. She's like articulates things so clearly too, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, like exactly what I said. It's just like she explained what every person may or may not go through. And so it was just like very, I don't know, I would take it as relief for some people here. I would say just like, cool, it's normal, it's part of it. And like the struggles that she went through and like her mindset of like, it could be worse, so I'm just going to have fun with this. And yeah, she was awesome to have.
I agree. Rod, you got it right. It was Adrian. I want to join your program.
That's the secret word for me to click it, so.
I have an iPhone Z6 with 1635. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great camera. That's a nice camera. So no, I mean, don't buy anything else for certain. Like use that. That'll work perfectly. Look forward to working with you. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate you being here. And, like we've said,
appreciate you being here. You were busy last week. You're busy now, and you're making it work in a car. You're making it work in a hotel.
This is my job. Here I am.
Thank you for showing up. Maybe.
If I canceled, what kind of expectation would I be setting about showing up and doing the work? That wouldn't be a good example.
Oh, that's so true.
Look at that.
You like show up and do the work, and he's missing the last two. Yeah.
Congrats, Brian. That's awesome.
It's awesome.
That's big. Those days that that one will probably stick with you. That's like more than you can make at a job doing much of anything, you know? So, well, thanks everybody. Appreciate your time. And we'd love the chance to just chat with you about your market, what you're thinking about doing. And we can obviously share all the details about coaching, what it would look like for you. So you'll see that link on the next page. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, it did not cut out at all, but it's starting to lag because my computer's dying, which is always fun. So anyway, we'd love to chat with you, our team standing by, and have a great week, everybody. Appreciate you, Rod and Mr. Kenny. Thank you, guys.
See you.
Bye.
See you later. If you were here last week, you remembered I didn't actually turn the end screen off, and I started packing up in my hotel room. So we're going to put it on. See if we can find it. Where is it? Here we go. See you later. We're still missing the music. It's coming.
Someone said, get you water.
Go back.